Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your sources and really try to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge for you.
That's the goal.
Today, we're diving into a really extraordinary ancient narrative. It's from the Cūḷapanthakattheravatthu. And it's a story that, honestly, challenges a lot of what we think we know about learning, about overcoming limitations, and maybe the true power of focused effort.
Absolutely.
We've got some, well, pretty surprising facts, and I think some real aha moments waiting for you.
Yeah, this deep dive, it presents us with a really compelling tale. It's about this individual who, was initially seen as incredibly dull. That's the word they use.
Right.
But through some very unique circumstances and a very special intervention, he ultimately unlocked these extraordinary capabilities.
So it really makes you reconsider what it means to learn, and maybe what it means to be wise.
Exactly. It pushes back against those assumptions.
Okay, so if you've ever felt maybe held back by what you thought were your limitations, or if you've wondered about those unexpected paths to, profound understanding, this unusual story, I think it holds some timeless lessons. Let's unpack it.
Let's do it.
So our story kicks off, interestingly, not in some grand temple, but actually with a pretty dramatic elopement in the city of Rajagaha.
Right. Not the usual starting point.
Not at all. Picture this. You've got this wealthy family's daughter. She's guarded really closely, like in a 7-story palace.
Oh.
And she falls for her own servant. Now, fearing her parents' wrath, which you can imagine would be significant.
Oh, definitely.
They make this incredibly difficult decision to just flee the city entirely.
Yeah, they were looking for a place where, nobody would know what they'd done, but, well, life has a way of unfolding, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
It was during their journey, far from home, far from any relatives, that the daughter became pregnant.
And this is actually where the names come from, which tells you so much about their situation.
It really does.
So when the daughter goes into labor, like right there on the road, the first son is born. They call him Panthaka, which, literally means born on the road.
Yeah.
But the father, he's still terrified of her parents, right? So he keeps putting off their return, delaying.
Understandable, maybe, but difficult for her.
Exactly. So the mother, realizing he's just too scared, decides, okay, I'm going back alone. But then, on the way...
She gives birth again.
Yes, to a second son, also on the road.
Incredible.
So the second son, he's named Cūḷapanthaka, meaning little Panthaka, and his older brother then becomes Mahāpanthaka, or Great Panthaka.
So you have Great Panthaka and Little Panthaka, both born out of this really dramatic situation.
Right. And this early family drama, it really sets the stage for their very different lives, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Because of their parents' sort of precarious circumstances, the two boys eventually get sent to live with their maternal grandfather.
The very wealthy man in Rajagaha they were trying to escape from in the first place.
Exactly. The irony.
So as they grow up, their paths just diverge completely. Mahāpanthaka, the older brother, starts going with his grandfather to listen to the Buddha's discourses.
Gets that exposure early on.
He does. And he's so deeply moved by the teachings that he eventually decides, I want to ordain as a monk.
And he does quite well, as I recall.
Very well. He attains Arahaja pretty swiftly. That's, a state of profound spiritual liberation, deep insight.
Yeah, his journey seems remarkably swift and clear. But his younger brother, Cūḷapanthaka, well, he faced an almost, you could say, diametrically opposite challenge within the monastic order.
And this is where Cūḷapanthaka's struggle, it really becomes legendary in these texts. Yeah. Our sources describe him as incredibly dull. You mentioned the word danho.
Yes, danho. Yeah. It means slow-witted, sluggish, just having a very hard time grasping things.
And he struggled immensely with memorization. Can you maybe paint a picture for us of just how severe this struggle actually was?
Well, it was profound. I mean, we're told he took an astonishing 4 whole months.
4 months?
4 months, just to learn one single verse.
Wow.
And even after all that effort, he still couldn't retain it. He'd just forget it again.
Oh, that's painful.
It really was. And his difficulty was so pronounced that his own brother, Mahāpanthaka, who was actually responsible for, allocating alms and duties among the monks, he felt he had to explicitly exclude Cūḻapanthaka from an important meal invitation. This was from the physician Javaka Kumarabaka, a major supporter.
He excluded his own brother. Why?
He called him incapable, said he was unfit for growth in this dispensation, basically saying you can't make progress on this spiritual path.
Ouch. You'll imagine that crushing blow
Yeah.
from your own brother who's achieved so much.
Devastating. Absolutely devastating.
So Cūළapanthaka, feeling just utterly disheartened, rejected, convinced he was a total failure.
Understandably.
He decided, that's it. I'm disrobing. I'm going back to lay life tomorrow. He felt his spiritual journey was just, well, not meant to be.
He was at rock bottom.
Totally. But just as Cūළapanthaka was literally about to walk out of the monastery the next day, something truly extraordinary happened.
Yes, the Buddha.
The Buddha. Seeing his plight, through his divine vision, the texts say, he intercepted him. He didn't let him just walk away.
And what's really remarkable is how the Buddha chose to intervene. It wasn't what you might expect.
Right. He didn't scold him or try to, force feed him the verse again?
No, not at all. Instead, with immense compassion, it says he took Cūළapanthaka by the head, brought him to his own perfume chamber, and he gave him a piece of cloth, just a piece of pure white cloth.
Oh, cloth.
Yeah, and he simply instructed him to rub it while repeating the words, Rajaharan, Rajaharanke.
Rajaharan. What does that mean?
It means dust removing, just that simple phrase over and over while rubbing the cloth.
That seems incredibly simple, almost mundane, right?
Yeah.
Especially for someone struggling with complex teachings.
Exactly. It's such an unconventional teaching method.
So what makes this simple act of rubbing a cloth such a profound catalyst for his understanding? How did that work?
Well, it's precisely the simplicity that becomes so powerful. As Cūළapanthaka sat there rubbing the cloth, just doing what he was told, it gradually became dirty just from the contact with his hand, his body.
Okay, makes sense.
And seeing this physical transformation, this clean cloth becoming soiled, it sparked an aha moment, a moment of deep insight for him.
What did he realize?
He thought, wow, this cloth, it was so pure, but just because of contact with this body, it's become soiled, it's changed its original state. And that led him to the bigger realization, truly, impermanent are all formations. Everything changes. Nothing stays the same.
So the physical acts became a direct contemplation on impermanence, vipassana.
Exactly. That insight, meditation, seeing things as they truly are, arising and passing away, that was his turning point. The physical dirt led to insight about mental processes.
So the dirt on the cloth wasn't just dirt. It became a metaphor for something much deeper.
Precisely. And then the Buddha appeared before him again, or perhaps projected an image, the texts vary, and clarified the true meaning of dust. He taught him, lust is dust, not merely fine powder. Hatred is dust. Delusion is dust.
So the real dust to be removed was internal.
Yes, the defilements of the mind. He urged him to abandon these inner defilements. It wasn't about external cleanliness ultimately, but inner purification.
And here's where the story just takes this astounding leap, right?
It really does.
At the conclusion of these verses from the Buddha, Cūළapanthaka didn't just get it. He achieved arahatship, full liberation.
Yes, complete spiritual liberation. But not just that.
What else?
Miraculously, it says, simultaneous with achieving arhatship, he gained a complete understanding of the entire 3 piyakas of Scripture.
The entire canon. Instantly. After struggling for months with one verse.
Instantly. The whole vast collection of Buddhist teachings. It's an incredible transformation.
That's unbelievable. So this immediate, profound transformation must have had, immediate ripples, right? Especially with his brother.
Oh, absolutely. Later that very day, you remember the physician Jivaka Kumarabaka had invited the Buddha and 500 monks for a meal.
Right. The invitation Mahāpanthaka excluded him from.
Exactly. So when it was time to go, the Buddha covered his alms bowl.
Which was a signal.
Yes, a signal that a monk was still back at the monastery. This was despite Mahāpanthaka having earlier insisted that Cūළapanthaka wasn't coming, that he was incapable.
So the Buddha was essentially calling Mahāpanthaka out.
In a subtle way, yes. And this led to one of the most incredible displays of, spiritual power in the story.
What happened?
Cūළapanthaka, now fully realized, wanted to show his brother Mahāpanthaka that there were indeed monks remaining at the monastery.
How did he do that?
He used his newfound psychic abilities, his iti, to fill the entire mango grove with 1,000 identical versions of himself.
1,000 Cūළapanthaka.
Yes, all looking exactly the same, all engaged in various monastic activities, some sewing robes, some reading, some meditating.
What a reversal. Mahāpanthaka must have been stunned.
Completely.
Yeah.
So Mahāpanthaka sends someone back saying, okay, tell Cūළapanthaka it's time for the meal. But the messenger gets back to the grove and sees 1,000 monks.
Uh-oh. How do you find the right one?
He couldn't. He went back, reported the problem. Mahāpanthaka told him, go back and grab the very first one you see and say, the teacher summons you, venerable.
And did that work?
It did. As soon as the messenger grabbed the arm of the first Cūḻapanthaka and said the words, all the other 1,000 images vanished instantly.
Incredible. And then at Javaka's house.
The final validation. After the meal, it was customary for a senior monk to give a discourse, a blessing. Everyone expected Mahāpanthaka.
Right.
But the Buddha indicated Cūḻapanthaka. And it was Cūḻapanthaka, the one deemed dull, who gave this powerful leonine discourse, as they call it.
Leonine, like a lion's roar.
Exactly. Fearless, profound. Delivering an address so insightful it was said to shake the three Pyakas with his deep understanding. His transformation was complete, public, and undeniable.
That's just an incredible redemption arc. From being called incapable to shaking the foundations of the teachings.
It truly is.
So what explains it? How did he go from that initial struggle to this radical breakthrough? Was it just the Buddha's clever intervention with the cloth? Or was there something more going on?
That's a really excellent question. And the sources, they actually delve into his past lives to provide an explanation. It wasn't random.
Past lives. Okay, tell me more.
The Buddha revealed that Cūḻapanthaka's initial slowness, his dullness, was actually karmic residue. It was due to a past action.
Calmer. What did he do?
In a previous life, during the time of another Buddha, Kassapa Buddha, Cūllapanthaka himself had been a wise, intelligent monk.
Oh, okay. So he wasn't always dull.
Not at all. But, regrettably, in that life, he mocked another monk, one who was genuinely dull and struggling to learn the teachings.
Ah, he made fun of someone for being slow.
Yes. And that negative action, that mockery, created the karma that resulted in his own slow intellect in this current life.
Wow. So his difficulty wasn't inherent. It was a direct consequence of how he treated someone else's struggle in the past.
Precisely.
What does that teach us, then? About the subtle long-term impact of our words and attitudes, even towards people we might perceive as less capable.
It's a powerful lesson, isn't it? It emphasizes that our interactions, even something that seems small, like a moment of mockery or impatience, can have these really far-reaching karmic echoes. It's a profound call, really, to cultivate empathy and patience, especially when we see others struggling, whether it's learning or anything else. It highlights that even our intellect isn't fixed. It can be influenced by how we treat others.
That adds such a layer of depth. But the story goes even deeper, doesn't it? There's another past life connection.
Yes, there is. The Buddha then revealed an even earlier life story. In that life, Cūllapanthaka was a student, and again, he was described as, well, dull, not very bright.
Okay.
But he diligently, devotedly served his teacher. And guess who the teacher was in that life?
Let me guess.
Huh.
The Buddha.
The Buddha himself, yes. A previous incarnation.
So there's this long-standing connection of care.
Exactly. And in that life, the teacher, seeing this student's unwavering service despite his intellectual struggles, taught him a single, powerful, magic verse. That's what they call it.
A magic verse. What was it?
It sounds a bit strange, maybe. You conspired. Why did you conspire? I also know. I know.
You conspired. I also know. That's it.
That's it.
Oh.
Simple. Right.
Right.
But incredibly effective in context.
Cool.
Well, the student, armed with this verse, managed to overhear some thieves plotting. Just by repeating the verse, he scared them away.
Just like that.
Apparently. And later, he used the same verse to expose a serious conspiracy against the king of Barasi.
Wow. So he saved the king's life.
Yes. And as a reward, the king gave him a high position, wealth, honor, all from that one simple verse taught out of compassion for his service.
So the Buddha was making a point.
Exactly. He was explaining that he, as the Buddha, was Cūllapanthaka's helper not just now, in this life, leading him to spiritual liberation, but also in the distant past, helping him achieve worldly success too. It underscores this consistent theme of support, guidance, and the power of simple, focused tools when given with wisdom.
It really brings everything together.
Yeah.
The past karma explaining the struggle, the Buddha's interventions, both past and present.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole deep dive kind of culminates, doesn't it, in that powerful verse the Buddha spoke specifically in Cūllapanthaka's honor. It seems to summarize the whole path.
Yes, the verse about the island is very famous.
Can you remind us? By effort? By earnestness? By self-restraint? By mastery?
The wise person creates an island which no flood can overwhelm.
Right. Creates an island which no flood can overwhelm. So this raises a key question for us, for you listening. What exactly is this island? And what are these floods?
Yeah, good question. Our sources are pretty clear on this. The island represents Arahatship, that state of liberation Cūළapanthaka reached.
So a stable refuge, a firm foundation.
Exactly. A safe place in the turbulent ocean of existence of samsara. And the floods that cannot overwhelm this island, they aren't literal water.
They're internal.
Yes. They are the four great inner defilements, the asavas or ogas, lust, hatred, delusion, and clinging to unwholesome views. These are the internal torrents that can sweep us away if we haven't built that island.
So the powerful message here, really, for you listening, is that even if you perceive yourself as slow, or maybe you face what seem like just insurmountable barriers to intellectual, personal, whatever, the consistent application of earnest effort, that appamata plus self-restraint, mindful practice, all guided by wisdom, that can lead to the most profound and unshakable insights.
Your perceived dullness or your struggles, they aren't necessarily a fixed state. They don't define your ultimate potential.
Yeah. This deep dive into Cūළapanthaka's story, it truly highlights that real wisdom isn't just about, piling up information or being naturally brilliant.
No, it's much more about insightful perception, seeing things clearly, and crucially, the purification of the mind, often through quite unconventional means, like rubbing a cloth.
Right. It shows the path isn't always about innate brilliance, but so much about persistence and the transformative power of the right guidance at the right time. How a seemingly simple act can trigger the deepest understanding.
Absolutely. So maybe next time you feel overwhelmed or discouraged by a challenge, maybe pause and consider, what dust are you really trying to remove? Is it external or is it internal, that lust, hatred, delusion?
Good question.
And what simple, consistent, earnest effort, maybe something unexpected, might lead you towards your own island of understanding and peace?